I've been having this thought. You guys have all had this thought too, which is, what is business? Like, how does it work? And then you always wonder, like, what's the actual motivating factor for any given business? I think many people have become cynical in the last 50 years that the reason we just did this transaction was because I just want more money. And I actually think that has been the reason for business. The actual reason, the deep down hearted reason, is just some variation on greed, which is crazy. And what I'm finding is that now I can literally say to someone at our restaurant, or you pick the spot, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, why do you do this here? And I can actually look at him and go, Christ is risen from the dead. And they'll be like, that's weird, bro. But also, I feel you. I actually think that's happening. I don't think people will say it because I don't think they have the cojones. But I'm starting to realize you can be like, hey, why did we just do this? Why do you sell surfboards? Because, bro, the water is where I find life, bro. And I think that's becoming more and more acceptable. And I think in the postmodern world, it'll only become more and more acceptable. And that now what we've been saying is acceptable because, man, I want to grow the market and you need money and I need money. So let's do it. It's not acceptable. It's less and less acceptable. And today, Connor, aka Nikolai, he's an Orthodox Christian convert and a businessman and a guy who moved to Korea 10 years ago and got married. He has a good story to tell where he thinks maybe nepotism is the point. Today on Heavy Things Lightly. Yeah, so here's the thing with you. This, by the way, guys, well, I'll let you, Nikolai, you can explain what name you're going by because it's very fascinating. But
yeah,
I want you to tell your story, but you're a unique character who started a business and lives in Korea.
Yes.
But what the heck? We met through Twitter, and then I said, this guy is interesting. So why would anyone call you interesting? Why are you in Korea?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I went to Korea out of a desire to just kind of get out of my bubble of where I was. Growing up, I grew up in a rural town in Minnesota, which most people can hear in my accent. And I was like, I just want to get out. I want to see things outside of my little bubble. And I happen to know some people in Korea. So I was like, wow, that's as good a place as any, right? So I just
Is that what happened?
went.
That's how
Basically,
you got there.
yeah. And that's how I met my wife. I met my wife. We got married. And, I wasn't Christian. I was Christian. I grew up Christian, but I wasn't like really faithfully attending any church at the time. I didn't even know about Orthodoxy, frankly. And so I met my wife, and
in Korea.
In Korea, yes. And then we got married, and then very shortened version. We got married. She, I think about 2 weeks into our marriage, she was pregnant, and I was like, oh man. I'm still working on finishing up my degree. I better figure out what I need to do with my life. So, and I was a history major, which everyone knows is the greatest way to make money when you're a new dad. So yeah. I was like,
yeah, that's you're a history major, not with a degree. 2 weeks later, you got a baby coming after your marriage. Yeah, you're a loser at that point.
Oh, but yeah. So
a good one, a good loser.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to do what my grandfather and my dad told me I probably should have been doing, and I'm going to join the military. So I went Air Force. I did just under 4 years in the Air Force. I got out a little early because of, saving time and all that other stuff that you can do. And then I gained some skills, actually, some useful ones for work, which were IT, cybersecurity, network engineering, things like that. So that's where I got my skill set.
Did they also teach you in the military how to age without appearing to age?
Well, that's the funny thing. I've gotten, my dad gets that.
People listening to this, hold on, Nikolai. People listening to this who can't see this guy. He's told me he's 31. No, man. You look like you got stuck at 20.
Yeah, I get carded still. Last time I went to the States, I don't think there was there was a handful of times where I went out with my parents and stuff like that with my brother. My brother's younger. He's 4 years younger than me. He gets carded. He doesn't get carded. I get carded. So
Dude, I
my
would card
dad,
you at our restaurant. I would card you.
oh
And I
yeah,
don't card anybody, like almost at all.
yeah, and my dad got the same thing up until, he was into his early 40s. Like he didn't age at all. And even to this day, if he went totally white. Like he started I'm already, people can't see it in the camera, but I'm already graying pretty significantly. So
What?
yeah.
Your
So
face is getting younger and your hair is getting older.
my
This is
dad is the
weird.
same way though. So yeah, that's how it works. So I just embrace it and I'm like, okay, yeah. That's how
Did you
my
marry
life's
a
gonna be.
Korean woman?
Yes. So my wife is Korean.
So your
Lovely woman.
your
So
kids will be like 90 years old and they'll look like 12. It's gonna be nuts.
that seems to be the case with Koreans. But Koreans seem to do this thing where they hit a wall at like 80. Like, so they'll be like fine, 60, 65, 70. And also it's like 70 is like, you look a little different. And boom, it just hits
White
out of
people in
nowhere.
America went 80. We hit a wall at like 40. You're like, why is that? That 40-year-old looks like they 70,000. They look like Methuselah.
Yeah. So yeah, I
What?
mean that's how I gained my skill set. I after my time at the service, I went into defense contracting because that was just a natural kind of off ramp. And I had some opportunities that kind of just fell in my lap. So I started living in Daegu, Korea, which is away from where we previously were living in Korea. And it was actually in Daegu that me and my wife were starting to get rolling, and all of a sudden, what do you think hit? It was COVID. So COVID-19 started right when I got there, and of course, work went crazy with that, and the
You're talking
contracts
about when you
started
got to
sealing.
the small village. That's when.
No, Daegu's a
COVID.
pretty big city. It's just
Okay.
considered a regional city in Korea, so it's not like the mega city that is Seoul. But Daegu is like a city of like I think 5 million, and that's
Tell
considered
us
a
about
medium.
how they handled COVID when you were there.
Well,
And how
at
you handled
first, no one was really panicking. Everyone kind of just did their own thing and took just basic precautions that they always do. So in Korea, they have the seasonal bird flu. Like they get the bird flu pretty regularly there. And so they were just kind of like, oh, you just wear a mask if you're feeling ill and just go about your business, right? It wasn't until the rest of the world really started freaking out that they started going, well, maybe we should start freaking out too. And I was always puzzled because I'm like, you guys are handling it fine. But overall, they weren't too draconian. They weren't too over the top. They weren't too strict. Like they didn't do any mandates for jabs. They didn't do any of that stuff. So I was very
They
thankful
didn't do
for that.
mandates
No.
for shots.
No, they
Interesting.
did not mandate shots. Now what they did do was that people that had that got the jibby jab could they could leave their home and go to certain venues earlier than others. So certain venues were restricted that were like mass venues, right, where everybody had to go. So if you had a vaccination card, you'd be able to go through there. But
could go.
90% of the stuff wasn't restricted, at least from my perspective. It never seemed overly restrictive for me.
Were there mask mandates?
In certain public locations, so like government buildings and stuff like that, but there wasn't a mask. Well, they're very decentralized, so the local government creates ordinances. Mine, there wasn't really any big pressure. Actually, it was the military when I was a defense contractor that really snapped down on it. Like they were pressuring all of us. They pressured me. Luckily, because I wasn't in the military,
The United States military.
Yes, United States military. They tried pressuring me hardcore into getting it, and I just said, "I'm a Mister now. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not Airman Blasing anymore. I'm Mister."
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
And so it was in this space something happened. Were you Orthodox during this time?
Not yet. It was right around when this happened that I started my daughter was very young. I started reevaluating a lot of my like spiritual walk, and like I need to get myself figured out in order to pass something meaningful on to my daughter. And growing up, I grew up in Reformed Calvinist background, R.C. Sproul, John Piper. Those were like
R.C.
staples
Sproul.
in our background. Yes. Paul Washer, those kinds of people. Staples in what I grew up in. And so I was just kind of disillusioned with it. Every church that I ever went to basically collapsed or had scandals, and the lead pastor stole money, or there were some theological controversy that caused the church to split. So I was just disillusioned with all of that. So I started looking into the early church, and that's the typical thing that happens that gets you down that hill and you start rolling. And then I found myself into an Orthodox church in Korea. And by God's providence, the priest that just got deployed there was an English-speaking priest from America. He was deployed there from the OCMC, Orthodox.
No kidding. Yeah, I know OCMC.
And so he drove 2.5 hours one direction just to sit down with me for like 5 hours and answer every single question that I possibly could throw at him. And then the next Sunday, I went to my first liturgy.
You walked into that church cold in the sense that you weren't sure what Orthodoxy was when you walked in there, or had you already been reading and researching?
I had some theological understanding, because as a proper Reformed bro, or proper Reformed background person as myself, you always do your research as what do these people really believe, right? But I didn't have, it was cold in terms of liturgy. I had no idea what to expect. And I had a little like 2.5, 3-year-old. I can't remember the exact age now, but she's squirming. This is her first time experiencing this. And so I go there and it just hit me. And I was like, there were some parts that I was unsure of, but it just spoke to me. And I was like, this feels like true worship. I've never felt this before, like true worship.
Yeah.
Because I always felt awkward growing up, and I never understood why. Like all the people that would raise their hands and sway back and forth and have these like very super overly emotional expressions in their faith. And the pressure to have this kind of feminine reaction to the faith rather than this kind of deeply introspective, which is what I am. I'm a very introspective person. And so Orthodoxy just spoke to me on every level when it came to that. So, and then, I started my catechism. It was 3 years of catechism in Korea. So I started under the Greeks, then we moved closer to Seoul again. And that, the nearest church was under the Moscow Patriarchate. They finished my catechism, and now I've been baptized for about 3 years. So it was 3 years of catechism, and I'm going on to my 4th year now.
Is that how you've come to call yourself Nikolai?
Yes, I was baptized Nikolai. Tsar Nicholas II was my patron saint.
For my non-Orthodox pals who found their way to our podcast, you notice that a lot of people have 2 names. I have John and John. So I have one name, but John Cathian is my saint. So you were given Nicholas, and which Nicholas is this?
Saint Tsar Nicholas II. So he was the Tsar of the Russian emperors. Yes.
Oh, so good. So your name is both a new name and a new politically charged name.
Yes. And I defend it with gusto. He is, when you, what drew me to him actually was reading his letters and diaries between his wife and his children, and like the way he would parent and the way he would just inform them spiritually. You read those and you go, this man is literally emblematic of what every father should desire to be. And so for me, that's what I wanted to emulate in my own life for my daughter. And so my daughter was baptized with me as Theodora. So
interesting. And so did you grow more and more interested in Russian culture at that point? Do you continue to grow? Do you think about Russia there, being in Korea, very close to Russia? What's your relationship to Russia, Russian politics, Russian culture?
I've grown very attached to Russia. I feel like Russian culture actually has a lot of similarities to traditional Korean culture in a lot of ways. So my attraction to Korea initially actually just was a natural extension to Russia. There's a lot of similarities to Russian culture in terms of their emphasis on family, their emphasis on community. and things like that. And this kind of, they have a more reserved nature, which growing up in Minnesota, we're very reserved people. We're not in terms of our like physical, like emotional expression. Like we're not people that are like overly flamboyant, for another word.
I I would second that lack of emotion. Yes, I second that.
Yes.
My mother was a Wisconsin girl. She's Greek, so she fought with herself. She's Greek, so she
Internal,
would have a
huh?
lot of expression, but her family was Midwestern
Yes.
and very much so. So
Upper
you,
Midwestern people are like that. It's very true, and you don't know it until you experience it. Very kind people, very good-hearted people, very just like you don't talk about religion in the home, you don't talk about politics in the home, and you certainly don't talk about anything that would be remotely controversial beyond the weather.
yeah, some people just call that boring as hell, but on
Yes.
the East Coast where I prefer it, that's just boring as hell. But
Yeah.
I get it. No,
No,
trust me, I
the
get it.
Swedish Scandinavian roots. That I mean, that's
And so you found a similarity there in Korea.
yes, there was this distinct connection that just drew me, and so Russia just was like a natural. Like I felt very comfortable with it. Maybe it's the cold weather that makes people like this. I don't know, but we just
Maybe.
have this natural like connection, and so the people there were so kind. The people at the church were so kind. My bishop, whom I've been blessed to, he's almost always at our church. If he's not at our church, he's at maybe one of like a I think like 10 other churches that he's under. So he's at our church a lot. So I get to like talk with him and really
Tell
like
us,
grow with him a lot.
Nikolai,
So
about the cultural makeup of your church when you walk in there. What's it look
yeah,
like?
so you're looking at a roughly, the liturgy is going to be about 50-50. So we have 50% in Korean, 50% in Russian. They'll sprinkle in a few English, a little bit of English in there just for some of the inquirers or visitors from various other backgrounds.
Yeah.
But that's mostly what you're looking at. And then I would say almost 50-50 ethnically make Korean. Younger. The Korean people are younger, though. The Russian people tend to be middle-aged or older, maybe like, older millennials or with children and stuff. And the few Russians that you do get that are maybe a little bit younger tend to be married to Koreans, and so they have like mixed children. So, but you do have, I would say, there's a lot of young inquirers, Korean inquirers. And so it's about 50-50, I would say, in terms of ethnic and cultural makeup right now, which is really, really great.
Korean inquirers.
Yes. Yes.
And in the States, you fit the demographic bill, you yourself, of what's happening here in the United States.
Yes.
20-something, 30-something men are piling into the churches.
Oh, yeah. It's a worldwide phenomenon. One thing that I praise, you can, I think we talked about this briefly in our private conversation, but one thing you can be critical of any jurisdiction, but one thing that I've been so impressed by is the missionary mindset of the Russian church, and their bishops here, especially their bishops abroad. They are so hyper focused on, particularly taking the Russian ethos of Orthodoxy and translating it into the local culture. So translating the languages, translations for the liturgy, making sure the lives of the saints are available to the local people in their local language. They put a lot of effort into that, and it's very, very nice thing to experience. Last year, we opened 3 new chapels in Korea under the Russian church. So
Andrew is our editor back. He lives in Argentina. He lived in Russia, married a Russian named Vika, who's my friend, and then basically left because he thought he was going to get drafted. He's an American. Now they basically in exile in Argentina. Andrew, when I say Andrew, I'm speaking to him. I'm going to put a clip in right here, and we're going to fake watch it, Nikolai. And basically, it's from a Carolina Orthodox parish. I just want people to see it. And what you're seeing is, it's pretty wild. It's like 39 people being baptized outside of the church on Holy Saturday.
I think I saw that video floating around, actually. Yeah.
Well, we're looking at it right now, and we don't have to comment on it. I wanted to cut it in. But is it So in Korea, there's also something happening. There's something bubbling up
Yeah.
with young people.
In the diocese altogether, in the diocese that my bishop would fall under and everything else, he would probably agree and affirm that not just in Korea, but basically everywhere, everywhere that he's got experience. Yeah, even in Russia, he said Russia is seeing immense amounts of young people returning to the church.
This is a great question. Yeah. I think
So
I can attest to the 90s. There was a giant rush back into Eastern European and Georgia. I was in Georgia. My last time in Georgia, I noticed that it had ebbed. The tide was going back out now, where it was in the villages. It was really just old folks again. I don't know there's a lot of probably explanations for that. But in your day to day, how about your wife? Did she become Orthodox?
no, so that wasn't really in the cards when we first got married. My wife did not come to church. Now she's very open to it. She wants my daughter and me to go. She encourages us to go. And one thing that she always tells me, and it's kind of funny, this is very Korean of her to do that, but she's always like, if my daughter's being particularly naughty for some reason with her, she'll be like, make sure you go tell her to confess or talk to the priest about it. So I'm like, okay, honey. So
she'll use some of the tools. I like it.
Yeah. So, but she, and my wife Korea is a very unique culture. They're very syncretist. They kind of take a little bit of everything and go, I kind of believe in a little bit of everything. So they'll be like, I believe, well, Buddhism's true. There's parts of the karma, Buddhism. And then, Christianity, Jesus is really cool. I believe in Jesus. Jesus is really good. And I kind of like this other stuff and this stuff. They sprinkle a little bit of everything there and there. And so, which makes them very open to discussing these ideas, but it also makes them very susceptible to less than savory actors to take advantage of of that. There's a lot of like weird cults that spring up here. One of them is like this. They believe in a mother of God, so they believe in a quornity, and they go around and try and like convert people to very woman-centric cults.
Oh, I see. So they've added a god entity in the image of basically Theotokos or Mary,
the mother of God. I don't think they take. Right, I don't think it's the Mary. So they believe in God the Father, God the Mother, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
So mother, as I see, as sort of Sophia, as a type of wisdom, as a player in the holy.
Yes. That represents femininity. And I sat there and debated them one time when they pulled me aside to try and convert me. And I was like, well, the father doesn't mean like strictly masculine traits. The father is a title and the position of his blah, blah, blah. And I went into it from a reform perspective at the time. But now that I'm Orthodox, I just kind of like avoid it.
Yeah. So this is one reason I wanted you on here, because your X/Twitter feed, I think you do a nice job as a younger guy. I'm almost twice as old as you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost 5,000 times older than you.
Oh, really?
I think that your Twitter feed does a nice job of something's happened to you in Korea that was reminiscent of and is reminiscent of what happens to a lot of our field workers and first things. There's some sort of tempered wisdom in kind of the way that you operate on there. And so I think people like it. That's one reason
I don't know why
but
people just attracted. They just started getting attracted to it, and all I was there for was just to like gain like news and then comment on things that I found interesting or commented on. So my people will notice there's no like rhyme or reason or consistency to what I'm posting about. One day it'll be about a topic that is totally irrelevant to what I was talking about the day before, because I'm not interested in just getting pigeonholed into like geopolitical analysis or orthodoxy. Some days I'll be talking about like games because I enjoy doing occasional games here and there, right? Like it's just culture war stuff. So I'm a very just whatever is piquing my interest at the moment, right?
So one of the things that was probably most interesting in one of your chats was the idea that you're like okay with nepotism. And that stuck out to me. Because I think in the old world, which is what we discuss here philosophically, or if you want to talk epistemologically, the way people know what's true, nepotism is not a thing. It's not it's really a new world concept that comes out of this idea of meritocracy, where only hire the people who are the best at something. You shouldn't hire your friends and relatives. And so I think your stand is interesting. You probably would disagree that nepotism is bad, but why? Talk to us about that.
Well, there's two things that really come to mind when I think about nepotism. One is that it's prioritizing those whom you know in your personal life. So that's really what it is, right? It's prioritizing those with a direct connection to you, not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of everybody involved, right? You see that the most successful cultures in modernity are very nepotistic. They're very insular. They prioritize their community. That doesn't mean that they exclude others outside the community, but it means that they're going to go like, well, if push comes to shove, we're going to protect our own. And it's very successful in doing that. And the thing is that's the natural way humans have always operated if you look historically. Historically, everybody was nepotistic, so there wasn't even a word for it. Like the idea that you wouldn't prioritize your family, your community, your church, whatever category you fall into, obviously it gets less important the larger the distinction. So the larger and the further out you go, the less you value it. But the closer it gets to you, the more home it gets to you, the more in your core, the more you value it. But it makes no sense. And so I'm sitting here, I'm growing up as a millennial in a completely atomized culture, in a completely atomized culture where I always ask someone this, I'm like, what culture was I given growing up? I mean, there's this Minnesota culture, you have a certain way of speaking, a certain way of engaging, but I'm saying like, what is it that connects me to every other American, just as an example, right? Oh, there's just nothing. Like we've lost a sense of who we are because we stopped even interacting with one another. And so for me, nepotism is a way pushing the idea of nepotism, which again shouldn't have to even be pushed, it's natural, is reinvigorating that idea of building this community that we've lost. I mean, Orthodoxy, it should be without a doubt, like all the greatest institutions we've created. If you look at the Catholic Church, when they were at their peak of nepotism, what did they build? Hospitals, schools, churches, institutions, organizations, the likes we've never seen. And ever since then, communities have decayed and things like that. So,
hey, everybody, my favorite commercial with my favorite person, Nicholai, my daughter. Nicholai, tell us about it.
It's finally warming up. The sun is out, the air is crisp. Spring must be any day now. Overwhelmed with that one closet full of junk? Have you almost been eaten by your clutter? It's time to finally go through those boxes and storage you've been neglecting. You'll be surprised what you find. Instead of throwing out these used items, you can donate them to us, First Things Foundation. 5 easy steps. We've partnered with eBay Charity to list your items for 100% donation when purchased through our storefront. First, find the items you wish to donate. Step 2, take 2 to 5 pictures of your item. Step 3, email me, Nico Heers, at first-things.org. This is where you can include as much information about the selected item as possible, including the year you originally bought it, worth, product type, damage if any, and size. Don't forget to attach those pictures you took earlier. Once you've sent the email, you can sit back and relax. We'll list your item for you and be in communication with any possible buyers. Once it's purchased, we'll follow up with an email and prepaid shipping label for you to attach and send your item off. Step 5. Package it up, attach the label, and drop off at your local post office. With those easy steps, you've not only cleaned out your closet, but you've contributed in assisting local visionaries in their quest for a better life.
Are you arguing on some level? You're making me ask this question as I hear you, which is, tradition demands a handoff. So there must be in the household something like a handoff that says you don't get to choose whether you're going to exercise A, B, and C. Let's just say, I'm trying to think of my own family. So one was Christ. So my mom and dad were handing that down. That was not really a choice. Now, what version of the church we can debate, but another handoff, now this sounds cheesy, was something like using your silverware properly. I know that sounds weird, but I did not have choices on that. My mom was adamant about that. And I wonder if we made a list, one of them would include, you will hire your brother or sister should you ever have an opportunity, because that is one thing that we do in this family. Does that fit what your worldview?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we lost as a culture, but not, Orthodox specifically, I think it applies to, is that, why, like, is a church just something you go on to Sunday, you meet the people, you have some just general niceties, and then you go home and never think about those people again? Or is it what Christ says? The body. We're one body. And what happens to one part of the body affects the other part of the body. And so when my brothers and sisters in Christ are suffering, is it not going to affect me? They're in my community. And if my community suffers, so do I.
So define community here. That those who take communion with you?
From an Orthodox context, yes. Those who take communion with me. So the beauty about Orthodoxy, and this is something I noticed when I converted, is I can attend a Japanese Orthodox church. I can attend a Korean Orthodox church in Korea. I can attend Antiochian, Greek, Russian, and for the most part, I'm going to have an immediate communal kind of kindred spirit that I'm going to feel immediately. And that's part of that is because I'm partaking in communion, the body and blood of Christ, right? At the dinner table, sitting there and partaking in something that is universal. That's happening all the time, right?
So if there was no demand, okay, let's just do it. Can we have fun with it for a second?
Go ahead.
I feel like you grew up in and you don't know where I'm going with this, but just let's do it. Let's go, because I'm imagining this as you're speaking.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. You grew up in an American family. Let's call it a Midwestern family. I did too on some level, and then basically plopped down in the East, and I was informed by New York culture. And so, but can you name 3 things that were demanded of you that you took these 3 things and handed them down? What growing up, or if you don't want to do your personal family, what's a Midwestern family demanded to hand down in general that would be called their tradition? Are there 3 things?
Okay, yeah. I guess the first thing that would immediately come to mind is the basic pleasantries in public.
Okay, I like that. I was going to say something like that too. Basic pleasantries. Okay, I like it.
Basic pleasantries in public. You roll down the window, you wave at somebody. If you come to a stop sign nearly the same time as the other, there's this like unspoken like awkwardness where both are trying to wave each other. No, you go first. No, you go first. That's a very Midwestern thing.
I can say in a Georgian family, because they're just living there off and on a lot. I mean, there's just certain things that are inherited. Like you will eat dinner. This will be known to you, the supra. You have to take this into your heart, and you don't get a chance at that. You have to physically defend. What things are articulated in American culture that is it constitutional awareness, an awareness of the
See, that's the problem. See, I think that is exactly why I held this yearning for nepotism, because I can't think of anything specific that is common to the American ethos that every American will sit down and go, yes, that was something that is expected that every American totally understand. Just a generation before, my parents would have said the Pledge of Allegiance, or you have to stand and respect the flag. You have to Like maybe when I was younger, my parents would always tell me, you respect your soldiers, you respect veterans. That was during the height of 9/11, that very like patriotic fervor when I was younger. And so my parents would always like really hammer that in. It's like, respect our veterans, respect our troops, blah blah blah. That's about the best I got in terms of like just like anything else.
I know I'm struggling with you. How about this? Would the notion of rights, could we qualify that as something that's generally spoken of in the household and demanded by mother and father, that don't forget all the people in your neighborhood have equal rights? Do you think that's been handed down?
I think that's still passive. I don't think it's expressly stated. I think it's something that is told to you kind of passively through school and through other things, and you just kind of talk about it, but it's not something that's like, this is something that is a duty. And I think that's the key difference, is that
there you go.
We don't see it as a duty to pass these things down. It's seen as a, if you're a good parent, you'll do this, or if you're,
it's up to you.
Very individualistic. America is such a hyper individualized culture, hyper atomized culture, that there really isn't. I could name you a couple things that Koreans, this is what you do.
That's it. Do that.
Well, the first thing is that you are expected to like bow to your elders. You're like the first thing you do is in fact, it's ingrained in you from the very moment. My daughter, for example, in the very moment, one of the first interactions you have, we have to correct her in public constantly to train her to do this and say that she's expected to do this. There's certain not pronouns, but like add additional words that are honorifics that you add.
Titles.
If anybody is even a year older than you, even if they're a couple months older than you, you technically are supposed to use those honorifics. And that's ingrained into you from a young age. The other thing is honoring those who came before you, your ancestors. You are expected, males in particular, are expected to be the ones that take care of the parents when they get older. My in-laws, and I'm not going to get into super details in personal, but like my in-laws or people that I know, they take care of their parents. Their parents do not have to worry about anything. They are taken care of, period. And that is expected, particularly the oldest son, right? So those are just two examples.
The oldest son.
Specifically, the eldest son, yes. The eldest son in particular.
I think you're right over the target of probably two of the things that most separate the old world from the new world. And I think you can bunch Muslim cultures in with Christian cultures in with let's call them Shinto cultures or whatever. I do think they all
Far Eastern,
everything pre-enlightenment does share is this reverence for age and ancestors. I think that's true. In America, I don't think we can claim that. I just don't think we can.
Not anymore, certainly. I think it's a unique expression of the American experience because of the way our country formed. And I think the hyper focus on not on people, but on documents as the foundation for the country is actually what roots us in, that actually atomizes us. Because a document is what? Open to interpretation. And if a document's open to interpretation, then everybody's going to have, at least to some varying small degrees, their own interpretation. Whereas if we think of from an Orthodox ethos, Orthodox mindset, it is not you going at it on your own in the Wild West, right? It's everything is informed corporately, in a sense, in the church theanthropically, because we view the church as a theanthropic body of Christ, right? And so for me, I think that is the thing that really it fed something in my soul that I just never had anywhere else growing up, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm sure, like I said, if someone really pushed me, they could say, my parents instilled this in me, my parents instilled that in me, but they wouldn't be something that just like immediately I can say, this is something that was demanded of me.
Yeah, that's what I want to get at. I thank you for reiterating. It's cheesy, but I saw my dad was pretty good at one or two things where he said, "This is what we do in our family," and he would say it. But my friends would find him a little oppressive because he was drawing those lines. You get what I'm saying? And I didn't like him either until I got older, and then I started to understand what the lines were doing. It's really fascinating, because also what's fascinating is what you said. In 8 years of doing First Things Foundation field work, so that's where we send people around the world to work in, let's call them old world cultures. This is a true story. We've probably placed 44 people or so. All of them have to live somewhere. All of them usually start with a local family, or they start with even a local organization. But when I mean local, I mean like Sierra Leonean organization. Yeah. Not an American organization in the country. And I have never had one of these people sign a lease. Everything has been done by a handshake.
Yeah.
Everything's been done orally. I find that amazing that, for instance, those people out for, these 2 years, every 2 years when they sit. So if we sent you, you'd be out there for 2 years. None of them have ever had a written contract with their family or landlord as per how long they'll live there, and we just shake hands. Yeah. And I like what you said. That's very interesting, because the contract, it seems to clarify, but what it actually creates is just lawyers.
Yes. Even subconsciously within the people there, like you're constantly lawyering, and you're not creating a connection with the person. It creates this tenant and landlord relationship rather than a relationship between two people who have to live by their word, right? And living by your word, what is a man without their word? Like, if they can't live by their word, right? That's actually, that's one thing my dad always taught me. I will say that my dad always said, what are you if you don't live by your word, right?
Yeah.
And he drilled that into me. So
it's interesting. I think you're helping me elucidate this old world, new world sort of divide. How about business? So you're an entrepreneur.
Well, new entrepreneur, but yes.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. And one of the things, again, in our conversation on Twitter, I think you're trying to do something like, say, a business can be Christian, or that's for non-Christians to say, a business can be authentically and integrally honest, beautiful, and good, and also make money. And tell us how you think this might happen. Is it true, what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, it's true, because, one of the things that money, at the end of the day, what is money? Money is just a means in which people respond to value that you're offering, right? And back in the day, like you said, it was a handshake, and it's like, I'd give you 2 pigs, you give me, this, right? Really, there's no meaningful difference. And so, is someone wrong for shaking a hand and saying, "Hey, I'll build you a roof. Can you give me 2 pigs for the winter?" That's money. In a sense, it's just a different way of achieving the same goal. Money is just the means of the transaction. The transaction itself is not morally wrong. And so my thought process is like, listen, I get out of DoD contracting, and I go, I'm looking at this landscape in America, and there's no prioritization of the average American worker. When I was growing up, and you might even remember this, all those articles at the time. When I was growing up, they were told, go into tech, get a tech degree, learn how to code, all this stuff, and you'll have jobs. The jobs of the past are manufacturing. The jobs of the future are technology, right? And there'll be jobs for you young American men. And we're like, okay, we'll go do that. And then we get out, and then what do? They replace us with low skill wage labor abroad. And so me and a couple of my other Orthodox buddies look at this and we go, we were promised a load of goods, and there's no community built around us to actually support us. Like, when I apply to a corporation, they don't see me, Nikolai. They see faceless resume and a number on a sheet that is oh, this guy's going to cost us way more than we could hire 3 Indian guys, not to bash on India, but we could hire 3 Indian guys for the price of one of meat, right? So where is the duty? Where's the loyalty? Where's the sense of community with these businesses? And so I'm like, I want to change that. And frankly, I just needed to earn money too. So I'm like, you want to know what? Like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And we ended up getting some initial clients that worked out really well for us. And it's because we focus on the fact that it's like, you know what? We're building something that is prioritizing the community around us, people that have been screwed over by a culture that has lost a sense of who it is. And we want to prioritize other Orthodox. I mean, it's not only Orthodox, but, non-Orthodox and Orthodox.
Could it be? Could it be that you would say, we're just going to hire Orthodox Christians and we're only going to do business with Orthodox Christians?
You could.
Is that in that direction? Is that where you're taking this?
I think yes and no in a sense, right? Because I think that there is a level that you have to be in the world, in the sense where you're engaging with the world around you. Like, you can't become like the Amish, right? Like, there's a degree where nepotism becomes where you become so insular that, one, you become kind of like people start disdaining you. And then you have the Amish who are so insular they have really no meaningful impact on the wider culture around them, right? You want to have both. We have to have both. So my answer would be like, yeah, I'll take non-Orthodox clients, and I'll even take non-Orthodox people to work with me. But the understanding is that you're joining into a broader community and a broader ethos that is not non-Orthodox. It is expressly Orthodox. And if they can agree to that, that's something that they're going to understand, right?
And so on some level, it's still a transaction, but it's like a transaction with a window into not your business per se, but into your heart. In other words, you also have to know this part of me. And if you still want to dance, then we dance. Yeah.
Now, I see what we're offering, what I'm offering. There's probably 100 other companies that could do the same thing, and probably in theory could even do it better than me. There's people more skilled than me in what I do. I'm not bad at what I do, but there's people clearly more skilled. But what are they buying into when they look at me and my co-owners, right? They're looking at men who are saying, we have integrity because we're informed by a community and a faith and a ideology and an ethos that transcends us. Right. My I'm putting my integrity on the line. So I'll give you an example. One of our clients was working with a digital marketing company, and the digital marketing company was maintaining their website, enhancing their SEO so they were you could see them better on search engines, things like that. And they were doing website enhancements and maintaining their Google ads and things like that, right? Well, we're like, okay, that's fine. So they hire us to fix something that was entirely disconnected from it. And one day I was just standing over the computer and I was looking at something in their thing. And I reached out to them and said, there's something wrong with your guys' website. There's not something right. I said, this is not running the way it should be running. I said, can we do it? We'll do a completely free consultation. We'll do a completely free assessment of your website. And you want to know what? You could take that assessment and bring it to those guys and have them implement it. But at least I'll know that you are being treated the way you should be treated. Well, we find out that they were basically scamming them, in a sense. They were taking a lot of money without doing a lot of work. And so we're like, you know what? We're gonna be clear up front and with a lot of integrity, and always tell our clients we're gonna be more honest than we need to be. We could sly around and like find ways to squeak more money out of clients, but it's like, no, we're gonna be honest with you and come and meet you where you're at, and be honest with what we can offer, and if we think we can offer anything at all, right?
Does it sound like this in this case? Hey, guys, we found this problem, and this problem we want to fix, and just so you can have it, we're not going to charge you. And they go, whoa, really? Why? And you go, because Christ is risen from the dead. And then they go, That's weird, but also it's cool. So
I don't think
what
I've done that yet, but that's a good idea.
what I'm trying to say though is on some level, that's the answer to all the reasons you might do something that doesn't look like solely in your interest, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that
Isn't that it?
ultimately, yes, if you were to like really push me, and I would say, yeah, I mean, that's the reason ultimately I'm doing it. But I also think that on a higher level, slightly higher level than that, like that's the baseline foundational, like if you were to push me. But on a slightly higher level than that, I think it's also just, you know, I want people to know and build trust with them on a personal level. So, because the more I know a client, for example, so let's say, John, you guys hire us to do something, and I say, hey,
Hey,
John,
maybe.
we're always open to it, but and I go, hey, John, this is what I think you could benefit from. Now, to the degree that's important to you, I'm not trying to sell that to you. That's for you to decide. But I'm here to offer that if necessary. And here's what I think I can do for you to help you gain that, right? It's not about me trying to sell some sort of like product to them or sell a service. Yes, that's surface level what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is, okay, I'm building a relationship because I want you to be successful, even if I'm not involved, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of building community, helping fellow Orthodox, like a Supra, right?
Yeah.
If
it
you're
is
like
that.
hey, Nikolai, we're thinking about opening up another location or something like that, and you're like, well, we're trying to figure out how this is going to work. Can you do market research for us and bring us like a big assessment? Like, yeah, absolutely. Well, what's that going to cost us? Don't worry about it. We'll get it done, and then we'll talk about the details later. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That is what builds trust, builds community, and it makes people care. I'm a veteran. Yes, on some level I sell that. I'd be like, hey, I'm a veteran, support me, Rob, because that's one of the few things that Americans really unite around is support our veterans. So yeah, I use that to some degree, but on some level, it's like, that's not really what's important either. What's important is that I'm looking at you, not as some business or way to funnel money into my pocket. Yeah, I need the money because, I need to feed my family. But at the end of the day, it's about supporting and building community and trust again in a culture that has become so atomized and so disconnected from each other. And Orthodoxy can provide that. But on some level, we have to take our Orthodox ethos, what makes us Orthodox, and push that out into the culture, whether it's business or anything else we do in our lives. You're doing that in some small sense with the Supra, right? Is the Supra, when someone comes to your restaurant and they're non-Orthodox, they might not even know it. They just know, hey, it's this cool Georgian restaurant. But the Supra is on a very deep level connected to the Orthodoxy of Georgia, right?
100%. Well,
and so
the liturgy of the Orthodox Church everywhere, really.
Yeah, and so how is that not anything but you sharing Orthodoxy, but in a way that is relevant and culturally relevant to the people in that immediate time, without becoming this sort of like salesman tactic? Because we all grew up in America with the salesman evangelical kind of style stuff, right?
So this is it. This is why I found, again, your story interesting. And I think you did a nice job of explaining it, but I'm with you. We have to well, here's what's new about postmodern religious conversations that I really appreciate. What's new is that postmodernism and its fragmentation has given everybody ownership of their own meaning. It's like, that's my meaning, bro. What's your truth, bro? And then what's kind of cool is for us, I don't like the word religious, but what's kind of cool is if you do it in the right way, that includes you and me. That includes the Orthodox priest with his cassock on can now go like, bro, my truth is, and he can say it, and I've seen it in our restaurant. He can actually say his truth.
My truth is Christ is risen from the dead, right?
Yeah. No, but I said that on purpose because you can kind of go, well, why'd you open this restaurant? And then you would go, Christ is risen from the dead. And they'd be like, that's your truth, bro. A true hippie postmodern guy in that sense would honor that. And that's actually a new event, because for the last 200 years in America, that would not have been an acceptable answer for most, for the Protestant, majority. They would not have been cool with that. The Catholics learned this. They had to go off in their little ghettos. The atheists, try being an atheist in 1900, in most cultural spaces, you're going to get hammered. But now there is an invitation to it. It sounds like you're taking advantage of it. But the problem with postmodernism is it's like a house of mirrors, right? Because at some point, your truth is just a relative thing, and we go back to fighting each other to death. And so I don't know the answer to that part of the question.
Yeah, it's difficult because, I will admit, like, we have clients that have been interested. Like we're still very new. We've only been around. We're getting close to our first year here in the end of summer. In August is when we started.
Tell us what you sell. What do you transact first, so the people know what you do?
We're a it's vague kind of on purpose, because we kind of do whatever a client needs us to do, but it's we're an IT cyber solutions business. So that means we do anything that is related to IT, that any business, small business, organization, nonprofit, you name it, if they need some IT systems or websites, digital marketing, SEO, any of that stuff, ticketing, if they just need an IT guy that they can go to and have them help them with stuff, we do that. We even have some companies that have been expressed interest in us just hiring a local IT technician whom we oversee. And by doing so, people don't realize this, but small businesses, it's expensive to hire IT people. A competent IT professional is going to be between, out of college, maybe 40,000, 50,000. But if you're looking for someone who's competent, has some experience under the belt, you're looking anywhere between 60, 90K minimum, right? That's expensive for a small business. So for us, we're like, hey, we'll do everything that a IT person would do for you guys, or we're going to be a fraction of the cost, because you don't have to pay us benefits. You don't have to pay us all that. You just pay us as you need the service. Yeah, we can do it anywhere. If someone needs local on support help, they need somebody who maybe comes out once a week to do some stuff for them, backing up stuff and whatnot, it would take us more time. We could in theory do it, but we'd have to hire a local technician kind of a thing, which, that increases costs and stuff. So typically we do remote work, but yeah, technically we can work literally anywhere, do anything, as long as it's within reason. Right. So.
Well, we'll put your electronic crumbs that people can follow in the show notes, because that'd be really cool. Because I guess I was attracted to some of your conversations online because of this notion that maybe we just
Sam Hyde, right?
Sam Hyde, I do know Sam Hyde. Well, I know about Sam Hyde.
Did you see his viral video on the H-1B visa stuff? His letter to Elon.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. That is one of the things that spurred me to kind of go on that mini rant about nepotism. Because I'm like, I'm so done. By the way, that rant was also spurred by me spending the last year, and it's still to this day, I'm still applying to work just because it's, until I get enough clients with the business, I need to have regular income somehow, right? Of course, if we get enough clients, we don't have to worry about that anymore. But one of the things that spurred me on is I've applied to 2,000 plus jobs, corporate, contracting, DoD, the whole works. And I haven't gotten any callbacks. And I'm like, I know I'm a competent technician. I got close to 11 to 12 years experience under my belt. Good experience. I got a secret clearance, right? The whole works. And I couldn't find anything. No callbacks. No. And I think I got one interview, and it was so disconnected and just corporate that it just felt soulless. And I'm just and I was willing to move anywhere, do anything. Take major pay cuts. I was willing to take half of what I was making previously just to try and find some work. Couldn't find anything. And then Elon and the H-1B visa thing happened, and then Sam Hyde released it, and I just was done. And so I went off on it. And that's how that person who connected us initially actually said, you should reach out to John Heers. I was like, okay. I had already watched your podcast on and off, here and there and stuff anyway. So I'm like, oh yeah, of course I would. So that's what spurred all of this, and I'm really happy that people have
Well,
taken a liking to that cry of help in a sense.
one reason I wanted to just put you on is also, so everything you just described is motivation toward trying to realize an identity about who you are, right? Because you're not getting any callbacks. You're some guy who thinks they're Orthodox, trying to figure that out. You got a wife, and life starts to creep in, and you're like, this sucks. And then you start to go, like, what is this for? What is this life for? Who am I? And then immediately you're drawn toward this. I mean, we talked about this already. You're drawn toward this notion of identifying the most important things in your life, because that's what happens when people are reduced to anxiety. They have to go deep. And what I found interesting about you is you didn't embrace the easy thing, which is your whiteness or white nationalism, because that's a lot of guys go there.
It's kind of
as
out
a
of the
way
cards
to
for
use
me.
what you call to create the community that allows them to live within. In other words, well, you would be an impure white nationalist with your yellow wife. What a stupid concept. I can't help can't help it.
I've had such interesting conversations with them, and I understand them. Like, I understand the desire. I just think it's misplaced, because frankly, it's not as big of an issue as people would put it out to be. You want to know what the real problem, and this is just to all the white nationalist people. I'm like, if you're really all that concerned about your identity as European or as white, then why aren't you getting married and having babies? Because that's really the thing that's killing white people. It's not, oh, we're getting invaded. Yes, that's a problem. Immigration's a problem. We all agree that it's a problem. It causes issues with jobs and everything else. But really, the problem is that you're not having babies. When you don't have babies, how do you build community? If you can't build community, how do you protect each other when you're at? That's what it comes down to, right? So,
well, yeah, no, I'd wade in and say, yeah, I hope everybody has babies. It's pretty life changing, and it's basically entering a monastery. When you have a baby, you enter a monastery, because there goes all your desires. They get shredded on some level, and you sacrifice yourself for someone else. So, okay, babies, yeah. But, and I'm not saying you weren't implying this. I look at it as like a glue, because there's like Gorilla Glue, there's Elmer's glue, there's lots of glues. There's just sugar, sticky sugar can glue stuff together. There's all kinds of glues that make community cohere. Whiteness is one of the most liquidy, it's super lethal for other people and super not real. It's super not real. There's nothing about me and you talking around here about our whiteness that's very unique. We don't have white food. Remember white clothing? How do white people dress? What are you talking about? This is not a good cohering glue in terms of our cultural identity. Now, if you want to say Northern European, okay, I can start to identify with that. Okay, Northern European. So Northern European language is English? Not really, but we can get closer, because languages are really a coherent. It's an important coherent.
Yes.
So, okay, all right. How about this? Let's go UK. Okay, so I've already gotten rid of whiteness, if you've noticed. I can't cohere at the level of white. It's very difficult to cohere at that level. You have to do weird stuff. You have to go back to, like Hitler did, to the ancients. You have to go back to this Aryanism.
And then where do you cut it off, right?
Exactly. It's not clean. It's done for reasons of power. In other words, there is something like a whiteness that was created out of the Enlightenment that you can sort of track a little bit in terms of power, that these people who tend to look the same have had power, but you can't cohere it on any other level. You can't cohere it in culture, in faith. You can't cohere it with food. You can't cohere it with cultural norms like dress. There's no way to cohere it except for power. And so whenever I get into this conversation, I just don't understand it, except for guys like you who are suddenly now cohering through your orthodoxy and then trying to figure out your race within that. And that's fascinating conversation, I think.
Well, yeah, it is. And one of the things that I tell people is like, even if you, and I agree with you about power, I think that it is rooted in power. But I think one of the things that people don't realize is that even the people in the Enlightenment that came up with a lot of these kind of ideas, like these broad categorizations of race, were never even consistent themselves either. Like if you read some of the writings of Hitler and his top people around him is kind of the more philosophical people. They made exceptions all the time. In fact, East Asians were given an exception by Hitler. They were considered honorary Aryans, and there was nothing wrong with German people having relationships with them. Why? Because the Japanese were honorary Asians, right? Like that. He literally wrote about that. Like so, there's no
retarded.
consistency.
I just want to say it because sometimes you have to call it out.
Yeah, I like that word. I use it very liberally.
Well, I know I'm going to get in trouble for using it, which is stupid, because it's just a way to say something with emphasis. So I'll say a different one. It's moronic. It's idiotic. It's all those things.
But those mean the same thing. So
yeah, I'm cool with it. But it's an odd move.
Yeah. So, but
I understand why it's happening. I understand why it's happening in culture. I understand why, because you young guys are trying to reclaim identity in a world that lacks it. And I understand it. I understand it totally.
And Europeans have a greater sense of identity because they still have small enough of nations, but also a common ethos that they can adhere to. In America, we don't even have a common language anymore that everyone can agree to.
No.
You know, like my parents live in Florida right now, and Miami, English is a second language there. Spanish is the primary language. So what's cohering Miami to the broader culture of America?
Nothing, because guess what? Those people are Latin in nature. So sorry, Miami, that's what you're becoming, which, by the way, could be cool. I love going to Miami. See, this is the weird part is, as an Orthodox, what are you holding on to? When America starts to fall apart, I'm always fascinated by Orthodox people, what they're trying to hold on. So as an Orthodox, what is it? Your love of the Constitution? What are you trying to hold on to other than a memory?
Enlightenment documents? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We're not a document-based faith. Okay, so where there's Christ, you can cohere. And so guess what? You're fine. Calm down. What you're losing is something that you never had when you're Orthodox in America. I really don't understand it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's pleasantries involved with my memory of riding my bike on my neighborhood in America, and I'm really happy about that. But I live in a South Asian neighborhood now, like a bunch of South Asian Indian guys, basically. You know what they do? They ride all the kids ride their bike on a neighborhood. They're just brown. What's the problem? Everybody calm down. I just get so irritated by this, because we're cohering at the wrong level. We're looking at the wrong stuff. But all right, last thing. Will you do me a favor, because I'm rambling?
Yeah.
Give us 2 words, and then I'm gonna give you a toast before we go. What do people think about war in Korea? Particularly about the United States bombing Iranians or Iranian facilities and Iranians?
Yeah. Korean people are a very interesting sort. I would say the average Korean does not care. They don't think two cents about it. Now there are Koreans that have become slightly atomized in terms of politics, because there's this sort of sense of like they are a smaller player against larger players, so they have to care about the larger players care about. But when it comes to day-to-day life, none of them really care. None of them, like, their culture just, why do I care about something that's going on in something completely disconnected from me? They care more about what's going north of them. They care more about what's going on in China with them, right? They care more about they get more worked up with a small little spit of land in the East Sea that they're disputing with Japan. And it's like not even a habitable island. They care more about that than they care about Iran.
It's helpful. That's helpful. All right, guys, Nikolai, thank you. I just wanted to make a toast. I don't know if you have anything there because I didn't tell you to bring anything.
I got something. Omi ja tea.
Oh, that's nice. So tea, and I've got some Borjomi, some water from the Georgian Republic. I think you can buy it here in Eastern European shops, and it's sparkling water, and it's delicious. But we should be toasting with wine. But I've been drinking. I do these dinners. I can't drink when I don't drink.
Gotta take it off, right?
I gotta slow it down, man. So I want to toast you and toast to us and to everyone who's listening by saying this. There's something in Georgian tradition called shvidoba. And I just want to say, may your family and your little, it's not a little, it's a big experiment about trying to find peace there in Korea by cohering on some level with, the beauty of a marriage and the beauty of Orthodoxy. May you find shvidoba, which is, it's not world peace, it's the peace of the soul that then emanates out and fills everyone around you. So to peace of the soul and to your peace, may it be that you find it even this moment. So to shvidoba. Gagi Marjos. Gagi Marjos.
I'll leave you with one thing real quick, John.
Please, Nikolai.
In Korea, when you're drinking and you're toasting to somebody, it's tradition for the younger people to turn away and drink.
Oh, this is great information. I might use that at my dinner, at my table this week.
Yeah, you should do that. It's great. Look into it a little bit.
Right?
It's such an interesting tradition. So, yes, basically.
I love it. All right, guys, this has been Nikolai, aka C Blasing, right? Connor Blasing.
Connor Blasing, yes.
Did I get that right, or should I not have said that? Should I cut that?
No, I don't care. I'm public. I'm actually releasing a book here soon, apologetics book with my name in it, anyways. So
right on, man. We'll link that too because you'll send it to Andrew or send it to me, and then you sort of were. I think what we did today is we got to look at sort of a guy on a journey in a foreign country who's offered us insight into Korea, into your soul. So I appreciate that, man. Very helpful, especially when it came to what you're trying to do with business and the idea of nepotism. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
God bless.
All right, peace. All right, guys, that's interesting. This thing about motivation to create unity and coherence and call yourself a part of a culture that's never going to go away. That's always, the old world has always provided that, and the new world at some level had honored that and no longer does. There's no coherence in the individual because an individual isn't a thing. There's no individual, right? You don't have your own skin. However, you, in conjunction with others, create an identity that's independent of their identity, but your identity was dependent on them. And so there's always interdependence. This needs to be said. It just needs to be said over and over and over again because it's also the image of who God is. God became man so that man could become like God. This is it. I think Mr. Nikolai is trying to experiment with this. Check him out on Twitter. Check out his business. You can do that in our show notes. Guys, consider being united with us on some level, and we'll be united with you. We'll get you updates, conversations about our projects. We need to do a better job of it, and we hope to. Come to our Art of Tamada, learn more about what it is to throw the supra, which is actually just a dinner, which is actually just how we live and how we should live. I love you. Peace out.